What's up, YouTube? It's Mr. Ferguson here. Had the sniffles, had a sore throat, felt kind of sick lately. Actually, my wife, if you know, she's a preschool teacher, so she brings home colds all the time. So I'm trying to get over it. I think I'm on the downhill of it, but we're gonna pass this video off to her. As I mentioned, we talked about the plants in the front of the home. Someone even asked recently, what are you gonna do about your plant beds? So we're gonna hand the video off to her. She's nervous about doing it, so let her know in the comments, give her some support. But we're gonna talk about what she picked out for this year and the plants we had last year compared to what she bought this year. And so I'm gonna hand the video off to my wife, Madison.
What's up, YouTube? So you'll have to forgive me for not being as eloquent as Mr. Ferguson, as this is most definitely not my forte. But as he mentioned, yes, we are going to be putting some plants in the yard today. We've been kind of holding off because we've had an unusually cool spring. And I had a boss once that said that you usually had to wait until after Mother's Day before planting. That was when you were in the safe zone in regards to frost. And this year has certainly proven true, as just last night we had another frost. And all of the major box stores are reflecting those seasonal changes. So they're just now starting to put out plants. So as he said, we recently went and picked up some of what we want to plant this year. We do still have our regular perennials in place, so the Nandina, the Silver Euonymus, and the Laura Petulum that we planted last year. Those are our staple winter interest pieces. This is the Nandina. Those are the things that we have year round. We put it there because we want to have something that's got some color to it in the fall and winter time. But then for spring and summer, we like to introduce some annuals into the mix to add some more color. Mr. Ferguson has said before that these are just now starting to put on some growth. And while that is true, your perennials tend to be slower growers than an annual. But again, that's because they come back year after year. Annuals, it's the once and done. So they put on a lot of big flush of color, big blooms for the season, and then they're done. So these Nandina are actually doing well as the Silver Euonymus and then the Laura Petulum. These will get to be as big, if not bigger, than the boxwoods that we had in place, assuming the deer don't eat them. When we planted these, we did not realize that deer love this Silver Euonymus. This is meant to kind of mimic what we've got going on the sides with the arborvitaes. So last year, I assume Mr. Ferguson will put some pictures in there. Last year up here, we had some pink pintas in the back, as well as some sun patience in the front. And the sun patience really were digging where they were at. So much so that at one point in time, they completely eclipsed the Nandina. So this year we are gonna bring the pintas back, but we're gonna put them a little more to the front of the Nandinas, and we're gonna put snapdragons here in the back. I don't think the snapdragons will get quite as big, so I think they should be all right in the back. And then we've got some petunias that we're going to put along the front. Hopefully the petunias don't put on as much growth as the sun patience, so you'll still be able to see the Nandina. Over here we had two lantanas that were really digging where they were at, as they got enormous and actually gobbled up a supertunia that I had planted around here. Obviously, as you've seen from the yard before, our front beds get a tremendous amount of sunlight. So whatever we pick has to really be enjoying the sunny weather and be able to tolerate seasons of drought, even though we try to keep them watered as we do the grass. So now over here on this bed, we do try to have some elements of what we've got going on in the front bed over here, so that way they're not completely different, but I don't want them exactly the same. So this year we're going to try out some Mexican heather in these beds. I've not tried Mexican heather before. I've actually done salvia, and they seem to be somewhat similar. Again, it's another plant that really enjoys the sun and can tolerate seasons of drought. We also have several dianthus that we're going to put in there, and then we're going to pull in some of the snapdragons that we're putting in the front bed over here in between. So we stopped by Tractor Supply because that's one of the few places that I can actually find this brand, Espoma. I have learned about it from Garden Answer. That's a gardening YouTube channel that I really enjoy, and I know that Laura over there uses a lot of the Espoma brand. We particularly wanted it for the plant tone, as this year we are going to plant some edible plants. And so I really want to be mindful of what we're putting into the soil. So we're going to use this plant tone for all of the plants, in addition to the potting mix for some of our potted plants. I've actually been saving some of our eggshells and coffee grounds to mix into it as well. I know Mr. Ferguson mentioned that I was putting it around the golden euonymus here on the berms, and that wasn't necessarily for deer prevention, as I think they're kind of munching on the new foliage in the woods right now, and that's why they're leaving the bushes alone. It was more or less for the nitrogen for the plants. So I've been doing that. We're also going to put some holly tone around the shrubs and try to give them a boost. So these are all granulars, and we are going to plant a clematis. I have been looking for one at the stores, so we're going to try our hand at that. But anyway, so we'll be amending the soil that we currently have over here at these beds with these fertilizers, and then for all of our potted plants we'll use this potting mix. So that's pretty much our game plan for right now, is to get these in the ground. I've been setting them out to try to get a feel for if I like where what I'm seeing in my head, if it looks right on the ground, and who knows if it'll actually turn out like I'm thinking. But that's the great thing about annuals, they last 1 year. So if you plant something, you like the way it performs, then you can buy it and do it again next year. If not, you can chunk it and go for something a little bit different. So now all we have left to do is get them in the ground. Good morning, YouTube. So it's the next day. Yesterday, after the planting and then the fertilizing of the trees, it was time to go get the girls, and things got busy. So we want to show you what we did yesterday. So we got all of our plants into the ground, the snapdragons and the pintas and the petunias, and I actually had the opportunity to talk to a neighbor, because I've never planted petunias before, and she said that they actually probably will not make it through the summer. So it looks like we'll be trying to decide something else to come up here in the front after the petunias die out. But they're there for now, and hopefully they'll produce a nice bit of color that'll last a few months at least. So we had no issues getting any of these flowers in. The soil was really loose and still a nice color from all the years that we've amended it. We got in all of the heather, as well as the snapdragons and the dianthus as well. So all of this should be able to make it through the summer. Now, it was interesting. There were a few times planting up here that I encountered some roots, and I'm not sure if they are the root system for this Laura petulum or the silver euonymus. They could have been some of the roots from the old boxwoods. They were so pervasive we couldn't get them all out, and I do know that boxwoods can regenerate. So hopefully what I pulled out was not any of the roots for these plants. I guess we'll find out in a few months. If those if they die off, then we know that they were not boxwood roots. So on a whole, these went in pretty well too. Aside from the roots, the the soil over here in this bed was in pretty good shape as well. We did amend it with some of that espoma plant tone, and I did throw some of the garden soil into it. Not that I felt like it necessarily needed it, but I had it and figured why not. We also took the time, I didn't film this, but planted a few things in the pots right here. We have some strawberries, some basil, a pepper, some mandevilla, and then these are some edible lettuces. So we'll see whether or not these make it with the deer. So thanks so much for stopping by and watching me put some of these plants in the ground. I know it was kind of different from what you're used to seeing, but I'm sure Mr. Ferguson will be feeling better soon and back to the usual grass videos. In the meantime, keep an eye out for some additional flower plantings, as I'm sure we're going to add some things down the berms to hopefully keep the deer from eating all the golden euonymus this year. I've got some bee balm that I'm looking to plant if I can get it to survive from the seeds. So thanks for stopping by. Check out some of the videos Mr. Ferguson is gonna post here to the right and to the left, and we hope to see you soon.